Woo! Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the final prediction video of the league phase in the Champions League. Some clubs have sealed their fate, and others have not. We've got the likes of Manchester City in elimination zone in a must-win situation, to PSG and Stuttgart on thin ice battling it out on the final match day to see who ends up in the playoff round. And in terms of the top 8, Liverpool and Barcelona are the only two clubs which have been confirmed to automatically qualify for the round of 16. Many clubs who are currently not in the top 8 still mathematically have a chance to catch up. So much drama to be confirmed. Every single one of these matches will be played at the exact same time on Wednesday. And as always, even though sometimes things don't go to plan, I'll be doing my best to share with you all my predictions as to what will happen. If you haven't already, please drop an early like, subscribe if you're new, and let me know your predictions as well in the comments down below. Also, if you're really feeling confident about your predictions this coming match day, then you've got the chance to win up to $20,000. All you have to do is submit your best 5-a-side squad for the final match day on SORARE. Their most unique tournament is here, featuring a multiplex jackpot where you compete with the SORARE machine. All that needs to happen is you get 400 plus points with your selected 5-a-side squad. You could win the $20,000 all to yourself, or split it with other users. It all depends on how many people could get over 400 points. It's completely free to play, but if you submit one limited card, you'll get a 20% boost. Here's an example of what I'll be going with for Champions Night. In goal, Emi Martinez has what it takes to get a solid performance against Celtic. My defender will be Diakite, as I think Lille will really strive to finish strong on this final match day. Midfielder, Florian Wirtz needs to step up for Leverkusen and fight for that top 8 spot. In the attack, I'm picking Harry Kane as Bayern are taking on Slovan Bratislava, which should be a comfortable win. And for my extra player, I think Julian Alvarez has what it takes to score against Salzburg. If you disagree with my selection, make sure you sign up for SORARE now for the chance to win some incredible cash rewards for yourself. This is obviously your last opportunity to sign up for this tournament in particular, as the match day is coming up very soon. So make sure you sign up and submit a squad as soon as possible by clicking the link in my bio. Anyway, let's get into it, starting out with PSV versus Liverpool. Liverpool, like I already mentioned in the intro, have secured an automatic qualification spot to the round of 16, as they so far have 7 for 7 wins. Can they get 8 for 8? PSV is definitely not going to be an easy task. They are in a bit more stressful of a situation as they are currently holding on to 19th place with 11 points. Realistically, things should still work in their favor for them to qualify for the playoff round. However, there is still mathematically a possibility of them being eliminated. So they might throw in more fight into this match than Liverpool do. Liverpool also might not throw in their strongest lineup into a fixture like this, but regardless, you already know Slot wants to continue his incredible record. He's obviously already very familiar with clubs from the Eredivisie. He's played them 9 times during his time at Feyenoord, won 3, drawn 3, and lost 3. Now with the complete squad like Liverpool, I don't know. I could see Liverpool being the first ever club to get 8 for 8 wins in this new Champions League format. I don't want to rule out PSV. I think it will be a close encounter, but I'm still saying Liverpool win this match 2-1. Moving on now to Bayern Munich versus Slovan Bratislava. Definitely a heavy favorite in this. Bayern got stunned in the last Champions League match day to Feyenoord, where they lost 3-0. While dominating some of the stats, Feyenoord just played incredible counter-attacking football and took advantage of Bayern's defensive mistakes. They're at 15th place right now and still mathematically have a chance to catch up to the top 8, but it will be difficult. Regardless, they'll obviously give it their all against, no offense, the weakest club, or one of the weakest clubs I should say, in the competition. Slovan Bratislava along with Young Boys are the only 2 clubs to pick up 7 for 7 losses so far. Granted, they had some tough opponents, but they still conceded 2 goals minimum in each of their matches. I'm sorry, Slovan Bratislava, I do see Bayern Munich going all out in this match though. I'm saying they're able to win this one 5-0. Moving on out to Girona versus Arsenal. Girona without a doubt have been underwhelming in this Champions League campaign. After their remarkable season last year, they've only picked up 1 win so far, qualifying for the Champions League. Arsenal are in quite a comfortable position in that top 8 spot, 3rd place at the moment. There is the smallest chance for them to get out of that top 8 spot, even if they lose to Girona, but I still think they're going to get 3 points in this fixture, as Girona have absolutely no chance to bounce back in the Champions League. They are officially eliminated in this league phase. So I definitely think Arsenal have a bit more to play for, and they will not take this match lightly. It might be close, it might take them some time to get on the score sheet, but I do think Arsenal will end up winning 2-0 at the end. This one might be tricky to call. Barcelona versus Atalanta. Barcelona have been one of the most entertaining sides to watch this season without a doubt. In the last Champions League match day, they had a thrilling comeback against Benfica, defeating them 5-4. And over the weekend, they defeated Valencia 7-1. Rafinha has proven to be one of the best players without a doubt this season. All credit to them for that win against Valencia. However, Atalanta is definitely going to be a trickier task than a club that is currently in relegation zone. What they've been doing under Gasparini is phenomenal. 3rd place in the Serie A, and in the last Champions League matchday, they got a 5-0 win against SK Sturm Graz. The likes of Retegui and Lookman have been incredible in the attack. Over a month ago, they played Real Madrid in the Champions League as well and put off an incredibly close fight against them. To be honest, at moments it looked like Atalanta were unlucky. I would truly not be surprised if Atalanta can scrape a win here, especially since Barcelona, despite playing some very attractive football, randomly do fall short when it matters. Despite all this hype around them, despite getting that incredible win in El Clasico, they are currently 3rd in La Liga, 7 points behind 1st place Real Madrid. Both these clubs have been doing incredibly in the Champions League though. Both are in that top 8 spot. I think Atalanta will have more to play for though, since they are still fighting for the top 8, while Barcelona have already secured it. I do think Barcelona will be slightly halted here, since they did automatically qualify already. I think it will finish 2-2. This next fixture will be definitely interesting as well. Brest versus Real Madrid. Real Madrid all the way at 16th place, but still have a chance to catch up, while Brest have 1 more point than them at 13th. In Brest's first ever Champions League campaign, they have definitely impressed, picking up some extraordinary wins. However, they did lose to Barcelona 3-0, and in their last Champions League match, they lost to PSV 2-0. Real Madrid were looking quite questionable earlier on in the season, but I definitely think they have returned in form. Kylian Mbappe over the weekend just scored a hat-trick as well, while many were questioning his arrival for Los Blancos. Unfortunately, I think Brest will start to decline, and Real Madrid will continue to rise up. I don't know if Real Madrid will end up qualifying for that top 8. It might be a bit of a stretch, but I do think they can be one of the higher seeded teams in the playoffs. I do think that they'll be able to defeat Brest away 3-0. Next up, Dortmund versus Shakhtar. Big news since the last match day of the Champions League, Dortmund have sacked their manager Şahin, as they have been in poor form and their loss to Bologna was unacceptable for them. They're currently 11th place in the Bundesliga with as many losses as wins. And in the Champions League, they really were working hard for a top 8 spot, but now they have fallen short to 14. Definitely quite a decline when you go from beating the likes of Celtic 7-1 to now losing to Bologna, who have not gotten a win yet in the Champions League. Shakhtar's season themselves have been quite underwhelming. They're 3rd in the Ukrainian Premier League, 10 points behind Dynamo Kiev. And in the Champions League, they've only won matches where they were slightly expected to win, against Young Boys and Brest. Dortmund, since sacking their manager, have still not picked up a win. They drew with Werder Bremen over the weekend. It's crazy to think that their last win was over a month ago. Can they bounce back against a club that definitely they have what it takes to get 3 points against? It's definitely a tricky one to call. It's not looking good for Shakhtar in the standings. They currently have 7 points in elimination zone. But if Benfica, PSG, Sporting, or Stuttgart get a heavy beating, and Man City and Dinamo Zagreb collapse, who knows, they might have a chance. I think Dortmund has what it takes to bounce back though. I'm saying they win this match 3-1. Moving on to Leverkusen versus Sparta Praha. Leverkusen hanging on by a thread for that top 8 spot, while Sparta Praha have no chance of revival. Leverkusen did just fall short to an in-form Atletico Madrid in the last Champions League matchday, and also drew with Leipzig over the weekend. That club has cut them short too many times this season. But with the German club having a lot to play for, and Sparta Praha, no offense, not being the strongest side in this Champions League, I do think that they will defeat them. I'll go for 4-1. Moving on to one of the most highly anticipated matchups, Manchester City versus Club Brugge. Massive match, as this determines it all for Manchester City. Will they be eliminated early on in this league phase? As of now, they are in elimination zone, and they must get 3 points in a fixture like this. And obviously, on paper, Manchester City are the favorites, but they have been having, by far, their worst ever season under Pep Guardiola. Slightly redeeming their form, but they did just lose to PSG on the last match day, blowing a 2-0 lead. They conceded 4 goals at the end. They obviously bounced back defeating Chelsea, but even then, Pep Guardiola made some interesting calls for his lineup, putting in the likes of Kusanov straight in on his debut 3 days after signing for Manchester City. He was obviously bound to make some mistakes early on, and Pep cannot overthink this matchup, and we know he has been guilty of doing stuff like that in the Champions League from previous seasons. Club Brugge are not to be underestimated. First of all, they're higher than Manchester City in the standings, but also they have been getting some very impressive results. They are one of the only 2 clubs to defeat Aston Villa, took advantage of Sporting's poor form, and even managed to draw with Juventus. Despite losing Skov during the January transfer window, they seem to be doing just fine. This one to me is more 50-50 than it's made out to be. Club Brugge definitely is a serious threat for a club like Manchester City, who are just not to be trusted this season. Will Pep overthink his tactics in what could be his final match of the Champions League this season? What a shocking season they have had. However, I do think that they will come back against Club Brugge. Might be a bit close. I could see them having an early lead and Club Brugge starting to sneak in some goals, but I think they will grab the 3 points at the end. I'm saying it finishes 3-2. But I really would like to emphasize, I would not be surprised if I'm wrong about this one whatsoever. Club Brugge, definitely a fantastic club, and they have upset other clubs in the Champions League in the past, even in previous seasons, so don't rule them out. Moving on out to one of the more, I hate to say it, useless matches of this match day. Young Boys versus Crvena Zvezda. I say useless because both these clubs have officially been eliminated from the Champions League. Now, this matchup actually occurred in the last Champions League season, where these sides were placed in the same group. Young Boys were able to defeat them head-to-head, and they drew the other fixture. But in this Champions League campaign now, Crvena Zvezda grabbed a massive win. Despite it being their only one, it was against Stuttgart 5-1. While like I mentioned earlier, Young Boys are one of the only clubs to have 7-for-7 losses. The same club that Crvena Zvezda beat 5-1 defeated Young Boys 5-1 in the Champions League. They had some close affairs with the likes of Celtic and Inter and still fell short there, and got annihilated by Atalanta and Barcelona. In this match being played for pride, I do see Crvena Zvezda being the ones victorious this time around. I'm saying it finishes 2-0 for them. Moving on out to one of the more underrated fixtures here, Lille versus Feyenoord. Lille, despite losing to Liverpool in the last Champions League matchday, have been incredible this season. Earlier, they defeated both Madrid clubs, drew with Juventus as well. They're at 12th place at the moment with 13 points, but Feyenoord is just above them with 13 points as well. Whoever wins this fixture has a great chance to qualify for the top 8 and automatically advance to the round of 16. So it is a huge matchup. And it's really tough to call, as Feyenoord have been back and forth in this Champions League campaign. Yes, they have the same exact record as Lille, but they did just defeat Bayern Munich 3-0 in the last match day, which cannot be ignored. At the same time though, they're the only club to lose to Salzburg, who have been dreadful in this Champions League campaign. Lille did just lose over the weekend to Strasbourg, but it's still too hard to ignore their attacking options. But if Santiago Jimenez turns up like he did against Bayern Munich, it's game over for Lille. This has to be the most flip of a coin matchup in this Champions League match day. Both clubs are, like I showed already, in quite identical form. Both definitely have their strong points as well. I am leaning towards Lille though. I'm saying they win this one 2-1 at home. Another huge one that's very tough to call next up is Juventus versus Benfica. Benfica, like I mentioned earlier, just lost to Barcelona 4-5 in that thriller, but it very much haunts them as they're currently 21st place with 10 points. If they slip once again to Juventus, it could be over for them in the Champions League. There's no denying that Juventus have been in underwhelming form. They've only lost one match so far in the Champions League to Stuttgart, and they also just lost their first ever match in the Serie A to Napoli. It ended their shocking unbeaten run domestically, where they somehow were getting more draws than wins. And the draws have been translating to the Champions League as well. They drew to Club Brugge in the last match day, and they have as many draws as wins in the tournament. Despite Benfica having some underwhelming moments in the Champions League, I can't help but feel they are unlucky to be in this position. That match against Barcelona being the prime example. They also had a hard-fought match against Bayern Munich and already defeated Atletico Madrid 4-0. They just gotta only not rely on that moment in particular. And if we are to go back to previous Champions League campaigns, the last time Juventus were in the Champions League, these guys were in the same group and Benfica were able to humiliate them both times. I actually do see Benfica coming out on top on this one. I'm saying it finishes 3-2. Sorry for the false hope on the thumbnail. This side have proven to be a mess this season, but they still tend to get the job done, and they are definitely a side that can catch Juventus off guard in terms of their pace of play. I think they have what it takes to get a victory here. Moving on now to Aston Villa versus Celtic. Aston Villa suffering a defeat in the last Champions League matchday to Monaco, which did throw them out outside the top 8. This is a must-win for them if they want to bounce back, but Celtic are not going to be easy. They won their last Champions League match, but definitely to an easier opponent. Did draw with Dinamo Zagreb and Club Brugge, but they will take pride in defeating Leipzig earlier on. Some of their attackers have definitely been in hot form. Definitely watch out for Furuhashi. But with Aston Villa having some seriously impressive moments throughout this Champions League campaign, like defeating Bayern Munich, I think that they can come out on top here, especially with them playing at home. They are suffering quite a lot of injuries, which is unfortunate, but still with what they have to their disposal, I think they have what it takes to have enough of an impact here. I think it will be a narrow 1-0 victory, but they still will get the job done. and hopefully make it to that top 8. Next up, Dinamo Zagreb versus Milan. Cannavaro's first match for Dinamo Zagreb in the Champions League finished with a 3-0 defeat. It was against Arsenal to be fair, but Milan is not going to be any easier. This side had a terrible start to the Champions League, but now they are 6th place. Very, very impressive comeback from them. And they have had some very clutch moments, including defeating Parma with 2 stoppage time goals over the weekend. This is a must win for Dinamo Zagreb though. They still have a chance to make it to the knockouts of the Champions League, but they do need 3 points here. They currently have 8, the same amount as Manchester City, but definitely the odds are against them, against such a top club. With them playing at Maksimir though, maybe things can go their way. Maybe if the weather's bad or something, it can throw off Milan. However, Milan have had too many impressive moments in the Champions League. They've even defeated Real Madrid. I don't see Dinamo Zagreb being able to do it. Unfortunately, Dinamo, please prove me wrong, but I think Milan have what it takes to get a 2-0 victory away. Without a doubt, I will be celebrating if this prediction ages like milk though. We move on now to Inter versus Monaco. Monaco are at 10th while Inter are at 4th, and they're just 3 points apart, so Monaco definitely will be striving for a victory here. They're a team that has definitely thrown off many in the Champions League. We saw them defeat Barcelona on the first match day, but then they couldn't pick up 3 points against Dinamo Zagreb right after. Inter, on the other hand, have only failed to beat Leverkusen in the Champions League. That being said though, every single one of their matches, apart from Crvena Zvezda, they have scored 1 goal max. So attacking wise, obviously in the Champions League, they have not been the strongest, but at least they're still getting the job done. Monaco are definitely capable of throwing off a side like this. We could see Mbolo or Ben Seguir get on the score sheet. I'm leaning towards a draw in this one though. I think it will finish 0-0. No goal scores. Moving on to our second match where technically nothing really matters as both these sides have been eliminated. Sturm Graz versus Leipzig. Both these sides have only gotten 1 win so far and 6 losses. So once again, it is just a battle for pride. Leipzig, despite being so disappointing in this Champions League, you can't deny that they have had a tough schedule. This is arguably their easiest opponent on paper that they will be facing. They still haven't had the most convincing form. They're still conceding way too many goals recently. But in the last Champions League match, they did grab their first ever win against Sporting and also came back 2-0 down against Leverkusen, halting them for a second time in the Bundesliga this season. But at the same time, according to you guys, that was enough for them to not be in elimination zone for the Champions League. Sturm Graz in the Champions League have just taken their highest ever beating so far to Atalanta, losing 5-0, but their other matches have been close. This one should go Leipzig's way, but in some interesting fashion. I think it will finish 2-1 for them. Let's move on now to RB Salzburg versus Atletico. Atletico were on an unbeaten streak for some time. However, they did just pick up their first loss in quite a while against Leganes, came back in the Champions League to Leverkusen, but then failed to get 3 points against Villarreal over the weekend. Not consistent enough to potentially win La Liga, I think, but in the Champions League with their good form so far, they have 5 wins and 2 losses in that top 8 position. While Salzburg might be motivated to change around the table, they only have 1 win and 6 losses at the bottom. Despite some of the shortcomings recently in La Liga, I do think some of the attackers for Atletico have been heating up. Sorloth, their top goal scorer, but Julian Alvarez has been making more of an impact as of recent. I do think Atletico have what it takes to get a 3-0 victory away. Next up, Sporting versus Bologna. Like I mentioned earlier, Bologna just got their first ever win in the Champions League against Dortmund, while Sporting were competing for that top 8 while they had Amorim, but since his departure, they have definitely declined. At the moment, they do have a playoff position, but if anything wrong happens in this match, along with them depending on some other fixtures, they could be in elimination zone. Definitely falling to a Leipzig who had nothing to play for in the last match day was a massive blow. But other than that, since they changed up management once again to Rui Borges, they have been in some solid form domestically. Bologna is not going to be an easy task despite them only getting 1 win in the Champions League. They have had many close encounters in this competition, along with halting some top teams for draws. So I wouldn't be surprised if this finishes like 0-0, but I do think Sporting can scrape through for 3 points. I'm saying they get 1 goal, probably Gyökeres, honestly, 1-0. In the final match we're looking at, actually a very big one as well, Stuttgart versus PSG. Both these sides currently have the same amount of points at that borderline playoff zone. Stuttgart is literally just 1 place above Manchester City, who are in elimination zone. So without a doubt, it is a must win for both. At the same time though, a draw could benefit them. PSG have had a difficult schedule, yet they have been able to overcome Manchester City in the last match day. While Stuttgart without a doubt did pick up some impressive wins, they were able to upset the likes of Juventus, they still had some underwhelming displays as well, Like I mentioned earlier, they gave Crvena Zvezda their only victory, which ended 5-1. Over the weekend, both these sides did pick up underwhelming results. PSG got halted with a draw in France, and Stuttgart lost to Mainz. Stuttgart are a very exciting side to watch when they click attacking-wise. They are phenomenal with the likes of Demirovic, Denis Undav. I don't want to rule them out, and I would love to see them be victorious here, but I think it's safe to bank on PSG to be victorious. I'm saying PSG continue to survive in the Champions League despite some people doubting them. They are able to get a 3-1 victory against Stuttgart. Well, there you have it, guys. Those are all of my Champions League Matchday 8 predictions, the final match day of this league phase. Like I said, let me know your thoughts in the comments below, and don't forget to leave a like button if you enjoyed this video. I will be doing a reaction video to my initial predictions I made before this league phase started, so make sure you stay tuned for that this week. And I will also be uploading a prediction video for the playoff round. I believe that draw is happening on Friday, so stay tuned for that, and I will see you all very, very soon. Take care, la cu noci.